I know it doesn't feel like enough when your brain's like, I'm only doing 8 minutes or 12 minutes. Here's the deal. When I started shifting my HIIT to 8 to 12 minutes 3 times a week, and at the same time, I was weight training twice a week, and I was taking my Make Sure protein, within 6 weeks, my body composition began to change. Now, it took a whole year for it to get where at least I wanted it to be. But at 6 weeks, I was like, this is a game changer. And that's now, I'm so glad we don't have to do more. Who has the time to do more? Who has the energy to do more? More is not better. Hey friend, welcome to the Menopause Makeover. Do you want to lose weight and keep it off? Are you struggling with stubborn weight gain, trying everything but seeing no results? Do you wake up with big ambitions only to feel exhausted and overwhelmed as the day goes on, leaving your own needs last? Hey, I'm Chris. I know exactly what it feels like to battle the perimenopause spread, that frustrating weight gain that seems to come out of nowhere. What used to work for weight loss suddenly stopped, and my hormones left me sleep-deprived, depressed, unmotivated, and anxious, not to mention dealing with relentless hot flashes. I was a busy homeschooling, midlife working mom and health coach, yet I felt lost when it came to my own body. I wanted more energy, less belly fat, and more strength. I felt powerless. Until I found health strategies to work with my hormones, not against them, I couldn't lose weight, and I didn't even feel like myself. In this podcast, you will find out how to stop the weight loss struggle, why your hormones are all over the place, and how to support them, and how to get healthy when you feel lost and alone so that you can feel good in your body again. Grab your sipper, pop in those earbuds, and let's go. Hey friend, have you signed up yet for the Beat the Belly Fat workshop? This is a free 3-day live event happening May 12th through the 14th, where I'm teaching you how to turn on fat burning in midlife without dieting, guilt, or confusion. You'll learn how to eat, move, and support your hormones so you can finally lose that stubborn belly fat. Go to getyourtrimon.com/workshop and register now. It's free, it's live, and it's going to change the game for you. See you there. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Honeycast. Today, I'm going to be bringing you some honey nuggets that are going to take you a long way with your weight loss and eliminate confusion surrounding exercise. I have been a personal trainer for over 30 years, and I have to tell you, in my younger years, there was no training for the woman in different seasons of life. There was training for women that in pregnancy, childbearing years, teenagers, but as far as perimenopause or menopause guidelines, when I got certified back in the day, there was no guidelines. And so I would train every woman just alike, pretty much. And what I found was that did not work back then. And then I hit my own perimenopausal years and menopausal years, and what I was doing definitely stopped working, and it started working against me. I began to gain belly fat. I began to get injured. I became exhausted and had a hard time recovering. I didn't know it, but it was because of my hormones. And it was also because of how I was fueling my body before and after my workouts. And honestly, it had a lot to do with my workouts. And so back in the day, I'm 56, almost 57 in a couple weeks. Back in the day, the 80s, the 90s, pretty much the 90s, cardio was the fad. It was more cardio. More cardio is best. That's the way to keep in shape or to lose weight. And back in the day, I was an aerobics instructor. So I taught step aerobics. I taught sculpting classes. And I also was a runner. And I also was a tennis player and an avid hiker. And I did tons of physical activity. Ended up really hurting myself with too much high impact aerobics. Did that back in the day. I would do a high impact aerobics and then I would go run 2 or 3 miles with a friend. That was too hard on my feet, on my body, yet I didn't listen. I just kept more cardio is best. Well, that was back in the day. Here we are, fast forward lots of years later, lots of understanding and training and new certifications now that are giving us guidelines that are science-based. I'm so excited about that. I have seen it change my own life. I've seen it change hundreds of women that I have worked with when we dialed in exercise. So today I want to talk about why cardio is not the answer for fat loss and the worst cardio and the best cardio. Do we need cardiovascular training? Absolutely, we do. Did you know that cardiovascular disease after menopause is the number one killer of women? Yes, it's not cancer. It's cardiovascular disease. So it's not that we don't need to be taking care of our heart, because we do, but there are different ways that we can take care of our heart that I want to bring today. So let's talk about this first. Let's talk about why the cardio feels so different after the age of 40, the worst cardio, and then the best cardio. Why does it change? I think this is a very interesting topic, because if we don't understand the why, a lot of times we won't adhere to the what. So the main reason that this changes for us is because of our hormones that are shifting and declining, especially estrogen. Estrogen is very energy producing. Estrogen is very protective. And as our hormones decline, we start to lose some protection. We start to lose some energy. We start to lose, and here's a biggie, muscle mass pretty rapidly after the age of 40. Our hormones are our support. And so when the hormones aren't there, we don't have as much support. And so our body is in somewhat of a more stressful state of being. And that's not just our outside stressors of life. This is the stress of not having those protective and helpful hormones. This is the stress of maybe not eating properly and giving our body things that are inflammatory. This might be that we're not sleeping as well anymore, so we're not getting restoration. This means our stress could also come from too much exercise or not any exercise. So because of the hormones that are declining and shifting, we need a different prescription. Our body needs more recovery, and it doesn't need certain things that I'm actually going to be talking about. So personally, for me, I want to share a little story here. When I hit perimenopause, I was still doing cardio work maybe 5 times a week. And at that time, I was doing Tabata, I was doing HIIT workouts, and the HIIT workouts were usually 30-ish minutes, maybe even more. I was hardly doing any weight training, which I now know is just the opposite. I should be doing adequate weight training. And what happened was I was gaining weight anyway. And that was because of my hormones. And that was because I was over exercising. I was raising my cortisol levels. The other things that happened was that I was getting skinny fat. So the skinny fat is, the scale might be going up a little bit, but I'm losing muscle and I'm gaining more fat, especially around my waist and my arms. And I decided, okay, I've got to figure out what's going on here. At the same time, I'm coaching other women with their exercise, and I'm seeing a trend with all of us. We're all saying the same thing. So at that time, I began to do a deep dive into perimenopause, menopause, and exercise, and ended up getting a new certification. Actually, I have 2 certifications as a menopause fitness specialist. And this is really where I began learning what it is scientifically based that we need to be doing. And also from Trim Healthy, from Pearl and Serene, and the potties that I'm listening to, and the shift from so much cardio to actually let's lift some weights, let's build some muscle. And so with that, cardio began to look very different for me. But it was hard for me to let it go because my brain was like, more cardio is best. Sometimes women will go to their doctors and that's what they say, more exercise, less food. It is a recipe for a backfire. So here is another reason why it changes in perimenopause and menopause. And that is because our recovery needs change as well. And that goes back to our bodies being more, I would say, less resilient and more in a state of stress because of all those other puzzle pieces. And so we need more recovery. Do you know more recovery is actually better than more cardio? And that's hard for the brain as well, for my brain to be like, what? When we are in recovery mode, guess what? That's where we're making gains. No, not weight gains, but gains in our heart health, gains in our muscle building, gains in fat loss. That is when we need to pay attention to that recovery. So we need more recovery. Even now at almost 57, I'm a pickleball player right now. And we were just having a conversation on the court there was a younger gal and she's like, I play every day, 2 or 3 times a day. And when I would love to play every day, but my body doesn't like it. My body responds. I get super duper tired. Sometimes I get wiped out. Sometimes it wipes me out the rest of the day if I'm playing in the heat for several hours. Sometimes my shoulder or knee begins to hurt. And so I can't do the everyday pickleball. I would love to, but my body is like, no, we're not going to do that. So I need more recovery. And I count pickleball more like a HIIT workout for me because I do play hard. I am running around, but there are breaks in between the games where we're getting some recovery. Hey friend, quick pause because I don't want you to miss this. If you've been stuck with stubborn belly fat, following the Trim Healthy plan, but not seeing the scale budge, or just feeling like your body has changed, nobody gave you the memo, you are not alone. That's why I'm hosting the Beat the Belly Fat Workshop, a free 3-day live event made just for women in midlife like you. We're going to kickstart fat loss without deprivation, shame, or obsessing over every bite. You'll learn how to eat and move for the season of life, what your hormones have to do with belly fat, and the strategies I use inside my coaching program to help women finally get results. It's happening May 12th through the 14th inside a private pop-up Facebook group with coaching, giveaways, and real transformation. If you've been wondering what's going on with your body and you're ready to finally feel like you again, this is your next step. Go to getyourtrimon.com/workshop and grab your spot. It's free, but space is limited and I want you there. Let's do this together. But as far as for the woman over 40, what is the worst cardio? Let's skip to what is the worst cardio to do? And that would be the long, steady state. You could call it zone 2 training. That would be the hour on the elliptical, the hour on the Peloton. And I was guilty of doing that. And even though I hated those machines, I would get on the stair climber for an hour. And it's funny, I go to the gym and I will see women doing that. And we just don't need that much cardio. It can actually break down muscle. That's why we don't need that much cardio. So more is not better. The other reason is we want to protect our muscle. And so when we do too much cardio, we have a rise in cortisol, which is a breaking down hormone. We need our muscle for many, many reasons. Metabolism, turn on fat burning, structurally, longevity. We need our muscle. So too much cardio can work against that. That's really, I'm going to say, the worst cardio is every day you're doing, 45 minutes to 60 minutes of cardio. That is not going to serve you. Another worst exercise for the woman over 40 is the Tabata type exercises. Now, I'm not calling that high intensity. I'm calling it Tabata, where you're 20 seconds or 30 seconds on and you're only 10 or 20 seconds off and you do that round after round with no recovery. That is also detrimental for the woman who has got the hormones declining, walking out the door. That Tabata, if you are going to do something like that, we're going to talk about what that could look like. You need more recovery. So those are some exercises that I would highly recommend staying away from. If you're doing cardio, higher intensity, 5, 6, 7 days a week, we want to back that up. So now why don't we talk about the best cardio for women? I'm going to say walking is amazing. And I would have never said that 10 years ago. I would have been like, that is so lame. That is so boring. What does that do? Oh my word. There are so many studies out today that show that walking is one of the best things that you can do. 7,000 steps a day is what you want to shoot for. And that can increase your longevity by 5 years. Yes, just walking 5 years. Also, for the woman over 40, it's low stress. So we're not going to be raising cortisol. And guess what? You are fat burning. You are burning calories. That's important. You also are helping regulate your blood sugar. That is key for weight loss and also just overall health and preventing diabetes and insulin resistance. It's helpful for that as well. It's helpful for mood, and especially if you can get outside and look at the sunshine and look at the trees and look at the ground and not be on your phone or listening to a podcast. Not that you should never do that. That is going to bring results as far as helping you shift into your parasympathetic nervous system, which also is your rest and digest. It's your calm. It's going to be calming. And that is what we need. Is there ever a time to go hard? Absolutely. And we can do that using walking. We can do that using biking. We can do that using sprints, high intensity interval. We can really use that with anything. But the walking is going to be one of the best cardiovascular exercises that you can do. You can walk every day. That's the good news. You can walk 7 days a week. You can add a weighted vest, which is going to add calorie expenditure, and it's also going to help with bone density. That would be a level 2. I would start walking first. Level 1, if you're not doing any walking, let's start with 3 times a week for 15 minutes. And if you are already getting your 7,000 steps a day, wonderful. You could start to do some intervals with your walking. So let's move on to that next exercise. HIIT, high intensity interval training. What high intensity interval training does is it helps combat insulin resistance. It boosts your growth hormone. It increases fat burning, especially belly fat. Yes, sign me up, right? But here is the key. Short, intense burst. This means you're getting breathless. You're working hard, but we're working short amounts of time. So we're going to talk about maybe here 20 to 30 seconds, working really hard where you get breathless. Maybe you're doing some hill work. Maybe you're walking up a hill really fast. And then 1 to 2 minutes, and I even do 3 minutes sometimes, of recovery. I recover to where my heart rate is about normal, and then I do another interval. So the intervals are best combined with more recovery rather than less. Where do we start out with this? If you are a beginner, I would start out with a 15-minute intense burst and then recovery, and maybe start out with 4 intervals, working up to 8 intervals. And we really don't need more than 8 intervals. So that high intensity training is really, it's called polarized training. It's really going to push us, and it's going to help with the fat burning, and it's not enough to raise those cortisol levels because it's short. It's intense, but it's short, and we're giving ourselves recovery time. Now, if you have adrenal fatigue, if you've been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, this may not be the best exercise for you. I would suggest walking and doing some gentle weight training to start. And eventually, as you're healing, you can add some intense exercises. But if you have if you do it high intensity interval training and you are wiped out for the rest of the day, that is too much for you. That is your body saying this is too much. And that's what happens to me sometimes when I play pickleball, especially if I play really, really hard. Sometimes I act like I'm a 25-year-old out there and I will come home and literally be toast. So I know better than to do that. And fueling before and after is really helpful. And that's actually for another podcast. Today, I want to stick with these best and worst exercises. So how many times a week is it best for our high intensity interval training, our HIIT? 2 to 3 times a week, friends, 40 minutes at the most. I know it doesn't feel like enough when your brain's like, I'm only doing 8 minutes or 12 minutes. here's the deal. When I started shifting my HIIT to 8 to 12 minutes 3 times a week, and at the same time, I was weight training twice a week, and I was taking my Make Sure protein, within 6 weeks, my body composition began to change. Now, it took a whole year for it to get where at least I wanted it to be. But at 6 weeks, I was like, this is a game changer. And that's now, I'm so glad we don't have to do more. Who has the time to do more? Who has the energy to do more? More is not better. And same thing with my clients. I've recently had 2 clients come to me and they were doing some type of higher intensity exercise every single day of the week. It's a program. And I backed them off. I said, let's do 3 times weight training and 1 day a week HIIT. Let's give your body, but it wasn't working. It wasn't working for them. We changed their exercise. We changed up what they're eating and how they're fueling, and they're feeling better and seeing results. So the high intensity interval training is also going to be helpful for bones, especially if you're adding impact. But don't let that scare you off. You don't necessarily have to be jumping or adding impact. Now, our 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100-year-old bodies do need impact, and there are several ways we can get that without hurting ourselves or stressing our bladder. But you can do high intensity, very low impact. The goal is to get your heart rate up and to get breathless. What can you do to get breathless? So, for instance, high intensity interval training for me would look like when I go on a walk, I'm going to interval my walking. Now, sometimes I'm just going to go on a saunter. I'm just going to saunter down the road and listen to my podcast or get on my Marco Polo groups. But when I'm going out for intensity training, I'm going to walk at a normal pace, and then I'm going to walk really fast for 35 to 45 seconds, and I'm going to interval that. I may stop I have one little hill in my neighborhood. I will stop and do 2 intervals on the hill. That's what my intensity training looks like. I also do jump roping, and I only do 45 seconds on, 2 minutes off, and I do 4 intervals. I like to jump rope. It doesn't hurt me. It's something that I finish up my weight training workout with. Another thing is even just higher intensity workouts. I have several of those on my YouTube channel where I'm doing low impact moves, but we're getting our heart rate up and we're getting that adequate recovery. Okay, this one may turn you off. And if it does, there are ways to do this without actually sprinting. Yes, you heard me. Sprint interval training. This is called SIT. This is a more intense form of HIIT that builds power and it burns fat efficiently in a minimal amount of time. So what we're looking at here is 20 to 30 seconds of all out sprinting with 2 to 4 minutes of rest. So you see, we sprint harder, shorter, and we rest longer. This improves mitochondrial function and metabolic flexibility. That means your metabolism starts to work better. You can do this with actual sprints, but maybe you have knee issues. Maybe you have bladder issues. Maybe your body isn't quite ready for the running. You can actually do this on a stationary bike. You can do this on an elliptical. You can do this even in a pool. I love swimming laps, really, really intense swimming with a lot of recovery. I don't want you guys to be afraid of intensity. As we age, I know we don't love to run as much anymore. We don't love the bouncing and the jiggling and all that kind of stuff, but it's actually good for us in small amounts of time. The sprint interval training once a week you can do that. Okay, let's talk about low intensity steady state. That's another great exercise. This keeps cortisol in check. It aids in recovery. It supports fat metabolism without overtaxing the nervous system. And this could be a brisk walk. This could be light cycling or swimming. This is something that can be done really at any time, every single day if you wanted to. A nice hike in the woods, something like that. This is great for days off when you're not strength training or days when you're not HIIT training. It also helps manage stress and it supports recovery. So these are some of the best exercises to do. Lastly, I'm going to talk about plyometrics and power intervals. So as we age, we lose power and speed, and these help maintain our fast twitch muscle fibers and joint health. So the plyometrics is more not necessarily about building muscle or definitely about burning fat, but we're really focusing on fast twitch muscle fibers, which we need, ladies, as we're aging. We need that for our agility. We need to be able to catch ourselves if we trip or fall, and we need those fast twitch muscle fibers. We create those with plyometrics or power training. Guess what? It's also helpful for our joints. What a plyometric is short jump-based circuits, like a box jump or a kettlebell swing. This is something that you can do a minute at a time, where you're just jumping left to right and front and back, left to right, front and back. Maybe you have a small step that you can jump up on. Maybe if you're not ready to jump yet, you can sit at your desk and you can stomp your feet. Believe it or not, that also does the same thing. Now, you do want to move up to some type of jumping. It is just good for your fast twitch fibers and your joints. This is short, very, very short, and this does not have to be done except for maybe one time a week. So that plyometric training is minimal. It can be 5 minutes or less, and it's really going to impact your bones and your fast twitch muscle fibers and your joints. So those are the best exercises or cardio to start with. And I would not put all of them in your routine all at once. Your homework assignment is to evaluate where you are and maybe what you need to do next. So if you're already getting your steps in and you're not getting your HIIT training, add 1 HIIT training a week. Notice I'm not adding 2 or 3. If you are already walking and you've got your HIIT training in once a week, maybe add another day, or throw in a sit training or a plyometric training 1 day a week. That's it. Don't forget your weight training, you guys, because that is the number 1 exercise for the woman in midlife and beyond. So we're going to stay away from the long duration cardio, which elevates cortisol over time, can lead to muscle breakdown, and it slows metabolism and increases fat storage, especially around the belly. That's what we want to avoid. We also want to avoid lengthy HIIT workouts. We want to avoid fasted cardio. Why is this a problem? It increases stress hormones that our body basically responds with stress when we stress our body by not fueling before our workouts. We need glucose and a little bit of protein to give us energy. It tells our body, okay, you're good, you're fed, you can go burn. We need that fueling before our cardio workouts, before our strength training workouts, before our HIIT or sit. Don't worry about walking. Walking can be fasted, but I'm talking about these more structured exercises. So the other thing we don't want to do, like I said, is overdo the high volume or the HIIT training. It can just really mess with you. And here's how I found this out kind of the hard way. I began playing in a pickleball league from 4 until 6 for 4 or 5 weeks. Those nights when I got home, I did not sleep all night long. It was my cortisol that was elevated. It also increased my cravings, and it was harder for me to recover even the next day. So we don't want to overdo that. And then lastly, we don't want to do all cardio and no strength training. That is not a good recipe for anything for your midlife health or your midlife season. So hopefully this is helping you understand what the best exercises are, what the worst exercises are, and even helping you understand why it needs to be different. This took me a while, and probably because I'm coming from more of an athlete type background where I was always doing sports and always active, and also as a trainer being taught these things back in the 90s, it's really taking I've really had to renew my mind on this. And some of my clients, same thing. They're like, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. But when you back off and you give yourself the proper cardio and the proper amount of cardio and the proper strength training, your body will respond. It will be happy. It will be happy to release fat. It will be happy to burn calories. It will be happy to support your heart. So let's put this into a practical application. Take a look at what you're already doing with your cardio and let's do an audit. Let's audit what you're doing. Are you doing too much cardio? Are you doing no cardio? Are you doing the wrong types of cardio? Are you strength training? If you are already doing too much, we know the next step is to back off. And if you're not doing anything, we want to start and meet yourself where you are. If you're somewhere in the middle, you want to shoot for daily 7,000 steps. That's going to be great cardio. You want to shoot for working up to 2 HIIT sessions per week. And you want to shoot for 2 to 3 days of strength training. If that feels like a lot at one time, then we want to meet yourself where you are and pick 1 or 2 things that you're going to work on. It's not best to jump in when you've not been doing anything to jump into all of that. It will actually stress your body out and you could get hurt. So hopefully you can take this information and you can audit where you are, and then you can either add another day of HIIT training, or maybe you're going to try plyometrics training or sprint, or maybe you're just going to start getting your 7K steps in, or maybe you're going to add a weighted vest 2 or 3 times a week, or maybe you're going to add an interval with your walking. Whatever you decide to do, I would suggest that you be consistent and that you start slow and that you meet yourself where you are. Listen to your body. Your body is always talking to you. And if it feels overly tired or exhausted or hurt in some way, then we want to back up a little bit. We want to build up. And that's the good thing about our body, is that we can slowly build up to greater levels of fitness. Did you know that I have a free community of women in midlife just like you? Busy women who are working hard to lose weight with the Trim Healthy plan, but feel hijacked by hormones and unexplained weight gain. I share menopause tips, superfood spotlights, delicious recipes, and so much more. Come join us at facebook.com/groups/get-your-trim-on. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who might be struggling to lose weight in perimenopause or even menopause without confusion and without overwhelm? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It blesses me to know this podcast is helping you. Time to grab my protein smoothie and head to the pickleball court. I'll meet you back here on Wednesday for another Honeycast episode. See ya.